Welcome to This Explainer. You know, history very often remembers the kings, but today we're looking at a story from the heart of India where a queen became the absolute ultimate symbol of resistance. We're diving into the life of a woman who was considered a highly dangerous rebel by the British Empire, yet revered as a fierce, deeply devoted protector by her own people. Let's uncover the extraordinary life of the Lioness of Jhansi.
To the British Empire, she was definitely a threat that had to be neutralized. But to her people, she was literally their shield. And to history, she's an immortal icon of courage. Today, we're going to trace the path of a young girl named Manikarnika to figure out exactly how she transformed into the legendary Rani Lakshmi Bai, the warrior queen of Jhansi.
Part 1. The Making of a Warrior.
So her story actually begins far from the battlefields. She was born on November 19, 1828 in Varanasi. Her given name was Manikarnika Tambe, though her family affectionately just called her Manu. Now, tragedy struck early. She lost her mother when she was only 4 years old. But jump ahead to 1842 when she was just 14 and Manu's life completely transformed. She married Maharaja Gangadhar Rao of Jhansi, and that's when she was given the name that would echo through history, Lakshmi Bai. Fast forward a bit to 1851, and she gives birth to a son. But to really understand her incredible resilience, we need to take a step back and look at exactly how she was raised between those early milestones.
After her mother passed away, she was raised by her father, Moropant Tambe. He was a commander in the court of the deposed Peshwa Baji Rao II. And here's the really fascinating part. Unlike most girls of her era, Manu was absolutely not confined to the domestic sphere. She was educated at home, sure, but she also mastered martial arts. She became an expert in horsemanship, and she was highly skilled in fencing. Her father essentially raised her not just to survive in a man's world, but to fully command it.
Part 2. Tragedy and the Threat.
Unfortunately, deep sorrow really stalked the royal family. Remember that son she had in 1851? Heartbreakingly, he died when he was just 4 months old. The Rani was devastated, and the Maharaja's health deteriorated incredibly fast from the intense grief. Actually, just one day before the Maharaja's death in November of 1853, the couple adopted his young cousin. They renamed him Damodar Rao, and they did this specifically to ensure there would be a legal heir to the throne of Jhansi.
But the British East India Company? Well, they looked at this family tragedy and saw a massive opportunity. Governor-General Lord Dalhousie coldly invoked something called the Doctrine of Lapse. This was a completely ruthless policy that outright rejected adopted heirs. So for Jhansi, it meant the British felt legally empowered to just simply annex the native state. They were literally stealing her kingdom through bureaucracy and paperwork.
And to add absolute insult to injury, the company ordered the Rani to vacate her own home, the Jhansi fort. Their offer? A meager annual pension of just 60,000 rupees if she'd step aside quietly. They basically expected a grieving widow to just take the payout and disappear from history. Well, they deeply, deeply underestimated her. Firm and resolute, she delivered this legendary declaration of defiance against the British Empire. She looked at their demands and flatly stated, "Main apni Jhansi nahin doongi. I shall not give away my Jhansi." This wasn't just her rejecting a pension. It was a solemn promise to protect her people.
Part 3. The Siege of Jhansi.
Okay, so by the summer of 1857, the Sepoy Mutiny had erupted, and it was spreading like wildfire. In Jhansi, rebel sepoys actually seized the fort, plunging the whole region into chaos as the local British administration totally collapsed. So did the Rani panic? No way. She immediately took charge. She raised an army, she established a mint to stabilize the local economy, heavily fortified her city, and get this, she incredibly recruited women to carry ammunition and repair defenses, all while under heavy enemy fire. But of course, the British returned. In March 1858, General Sir Hugh Rose laid a grueling, intense siege to Jhansi, demanding her absolute surrender. The Rani, completely true to her word, refused. For 2 brutal weeks, she personally led the defense of her city. But on April 3rd, the unimaginable happened. The city walls were breached. The fight poured right into the streets, turning into this terrifying, brutal hand-to-hand combat.
Part 4. A Daring Midnight Escape.
Knowing that capture meant the absolute end of the rebellion, she executed this daring midnight escape. It's literally like something straight out of a movie. She tied her adopted son, Damodar Rao, securely to her back. She mounted her incredibly loyal horse, Bottle,
and jumped from the fort walls, disappearing straight into the darkness. But you have to understand this. She didn't flee to hide. She fled so she could keep fighting.
Part 5. The Final Heroic Stand.
So, she joins forces with other key rebel leaders, including Tantia Tope, and together they actually pulled off a massive strategic victory. They captured the extremely formidable Gwalior fort. But the British Empire was relentless. On June 17, 1858, returning British forces launched a massive all-out counterattack right on Gwalior fort.
And this is where the warrior queen meets her fate. You see, she didn't command safely from the back lines. Dressed completely in the uniform of a cavalryman, Rani Lakshmi Bai charged directly into the British ranks. She fought with just unmatched ferocity, using the very martial arts and fencing skills her father had taught her as a little girl. But during this fierce, desperate charge, she was mortally wounded by British hussars. She was only 29 years old.
But even in her final moments, she commanded such profound devotion. To prevent the British from capturing her and desecrating her body, her loyal followers took immediate action. They quickly carried her to a secluded garden and cremated her right then and there. They protected her dignity in death just as fiercely as she had protected them in life.
Part 6. An Immortal Legacy.
Now, I really want you to listen to this dispatch. This isn't a quote from a loyal follower. This is actually from General Sir Hugh Rose, the very British general who hunted her down. In his official military records, he was essentially forced into awe. He wrote that she was remarkable for her beauty, cleverness, and perseverance. He fully admitted that she was the most dangerous of all the rebel leaders, and he actually called her the best and bravest of all. You know, when your greatest enemy writes your absolute highest praise, your legacy is pretty much secured, for sure.
So we're going to end this explainer with a thought for you to reflect on. Rani Lakshmi Bai did not win her war against the British East India Company, but she absolutely won immortality. She became this incredible guiding light for the generations of freedom fighters who would, nearly a century later, finally win the independence she died fighting for. So ask yourself, when you're looking at the grand scope of history, which is the greater victory? Thank you so much for exploring this remarkable life with me today. Keep asking questions, and as always, keep learning.